All right, guys, we are done with the chapter. So we're on to the summative review. And I'm going to go through and do one problem from each type, from each target. So target 1, I can find the solutions by looking at a graph. So let's do number 1. So remember, these solutions are the x-intercepts. So where does the graph cross the x-axis? And it's right here and right here. And those are at -1 and 5. So those are your two solutions. All right, target 2. I can find the solutions by factoring. I'm actually going to do number 4. Okay, so by factoring, the first step is you have to move the 3x to the other side so that your equation equals 0. All right, now don't actually do this, just write them in descending order. 6x squared minus 3x equals 0. And then remember we talked about when you have the a and the b, you factor out the GCF. So what's the GCF of these two numbers? It's 3 and an x. So if you divide both terms by 3x, you get 2x minus 1. And then if we set them both equal to 0, we'll get our two answers. So when does 3x equal 0? And when does 2x minus 1 equal 0? And these are both very easy to solve. Divide by 3, and 0 divided by 3 is 0. And this one you add 1 and divide by 2. So x equals 1/2. So our two solutions are 0 and, 0 and 1/2. All right, and then 9H is I can solve by using the graphing calculator. Let's do number 5. Why not? So it must equal 0, and it already does. So we are ready to just plug it in. So go to y equals and type this in. 3x squared plus 5x minus 12, and hit graph, and hopefully, yes, okay, so we're going to have two solutions. So remember, you do second trace, option number 2, and then we got to get our blinker. I'm going to do this one first. So I'm going to get my blinker a little to the left and hit enter once, and then a little to the right and hit enter twice. So my first one is at -3. And then I got to do it all over again for this one. So second trace, option 2. Let's find our blinker, and let's get them a little to the left of this one and hit enter once, and then a little to the right and hit enter twice. And that one's at 1.3 repeating. Okay, so that's using the graphing calculator. All right, on to the next one. Next one is I can solve by square roots. So let's do number 8. So first you have to isolate the square. So we got to divide by -3 to both sides. And you're left with x plus 2 squared equals 4. And then when you have something squared equals a number, we square root both sides because that'll cancel with the square. And now you're at x plus 2 equals plus or minus, and the square root of 4 is 2. Don't forget that plus or minus as soon as you square root. And then last step, to get x alone, we minus 2 from both sides. All right, let's see our two answers here. So the first one's going to be +2 minus 2, and that's 0. And the second one's going to be -2 minus 2, and that's -4. So those are your two answers. Okay. No, next one is solve by completing the square. This is the C one. I would probably actually divide everything by 3 first. Let's make it a little bit easier. So if you divide everything by 3, we're at x squared minus 1x minus 6 equals 0. And now, let's move the 6 to the other side and make a space to find c. So now it's x squared minus x plus c equals 6 plus c. Remember, the 6 is not the c. We got to find the c ourselves. Okay, this one's not going to be pretty, by the way. All right, so now how do we find c? So to find c, we take b divided by 2 squared. All right, so b is negative 1 in this case. So negative 1 divided by 2 squared. So negative 1/2 squared is 1/4. All right, so we got to plug that in for c. Yeah, no, this one is not very nice, but we could still do it. All right, so if we plug it in, it's x squared minus x plus 1/4 equals 6 plus 1/4. All right, we just created a perfect square trinomial here. So it's going to be x minus, and remember this number is just the b over 2 part, so negative 1/2. I already put the negative. And then on the right side, 6 plus 1/4 is 25/4 as an improper fraction. All right, and then if you have something squared equals a number, we square root both sides. And these cancel. You get x minus 1/2 equals plus or minus, and the square root of 25/4 is 5/2. And then last step to get x alone, we have to add 1/2 to both sides. And let's get our two answers. Okay, so we have positive 5/2 plus 1/2, and that's 6/2, which is 3. And then negative 5/2 plus 1/2 is negative 4/2, which is negative 2. So it wasn't the nicest one, but we still got nice answers, 3 and negative 2. And lastly, solve by quadratic formula. This is the story about the boy. So before you use it, we have to subtract the 18 to the other side. So it's 3x squared minus 3x minus 18 equals 0. And you guys know the quadratic formula by now, but I'll write it down. X equals negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. All right, plug it in the calculator, and we should be good to go. All right, so big fraction right away. X equals negative b. A negative negative is a positive, plus square root b squared, so you need parentheses, negative 3 squared, minus 4 times a, which is 3, times c, which is negative 18, all over 2a. So 2 times 3. All right, our first answer is 3. Our second answer, we're going to go up and edit and turn the plus into a minus. And the second answer is negative 2. Now this, I don't know if you guys noticed, this was the same problem as this one. So notice how we got the same answer, 3 and negative 2. All right, guys, that's a review of all the methods, and then there will also be a section where you choose your own method. All right, thanks for watching.